Welcome to Barca News. It is May 28th, 2026. And today I'm going to tell you how Barcelona could reduce the cost or the impact of the signing of Anthony Gordon. Also, Barcelona have reached a personal agreement with Julian Alvarez to join the club. And finally, Andrea Cambiaso currently being closely tracked by Barcelona. We have a lot to discuss, so let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Boo and welcome to another news video about this summer transfer market that's starting off with lots of interesting news. Of course, yesterday we talked about how Barcelona have officially signed Anthony Gordon, reaching an agreement with the player and later on with Newcastle for the transfer of the English left winger to Barcelona for 70 million euros fixed plus 10 million euros in variables. And well, lo and behold, today, these were the footage these were the images at the Barcelona International Airport, El Prat, because there he is, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona's first official signing of the summer. Anthony Gordon arriving in the city of Barcelona. This was him coming out of the airport, the international airport, El Prat. He even walked up to the reporters to say hi. The reporters asked him, hey, are you happy of coming to Barcelona? He said he was very happy. Now, after that, Anthony Gordon did make his way to the hospital where he officially passed his medical exams. And as such, this signing is official. And of course, I say this signing is official because everything was pending the medical exam. Because when you sign a player, you know, they still have to pass the medical exam. If they don't, everything falls through. But no, Anthony Gordon passed his medical exam with flying colors. And as such, this signing is official. Anthony Gordon will wear the Barcelona kit in the 2026-2027 season. He's signed with Barcelona for the next 5 seasons, again for 70 million euros fixed plus 10 million euros in variables. Now, speaking of Anthony Gordon's price or transfer fee, I'm going to tell you how Barcelona can reduce the total cost of this signing through a domino effect of Anthony Gordon leaving Newcastle. And it all starts with Abde. Now, you might say, Mo, why are we talking about Abde? What the hell is going on? Well, let me explain to you. Anthony Gordon has joined Barcelona. That's official. Paperwork is signed. He's passed his medical exams. Anthony Gordon is a Barcelona player. That's 100% official. Now, what happens? That leaves an empty position in Newcastle. And now Newcastle need to replace Anthony Gordon with someone else. And who are Newcastle looking at for that replacement? Well, Abde, the Moroccan winger who currently plays for Real Betis, who had a pretty good season with Real Betis and as such has been drawing or attracting the attention of European clubs. And it's reported that Newcastle are interested in signing Abde. Now, you might say, Mo, why do I care who Newcastle signs? Well, of course, it matters because Barcelona still own 20% of the rights of Abde. When Barcelona transferred Abde to Real Betis in 2023, they transferred him for 7.5 million euros and they retained 50% of his rights. Then, of course, we had the Vitor Roque incident where we sent Vitor Roque on loan to Real Betis. About halfway through the season, Palmeiras wanted to buy him. So in order to end that loan early, Barcelona agreed to let go of 30% of the rights of Abde in order for Real Betis to release Vitor Roque, and then Vitor Roque ended up going to Palmeiras. So Barcelona still owned 20% of the rights of Abde, and it's reported that Newcastle would be willing to pay something around 20 to 25 million euros. Now, Abde does have a release clause worth 60 million euros. So technically, Betis could say, you know what? I don't care. If you want him, you have to pay the release clause. If that happens, if Newcastle have paid the 60 million release clause, which I doubt it will happen, but let's say it does, 20% of that is, of course, 12 million. But if Newcastle and Real Betis end up reaching an agreement, and Newcastle do end up paying that 20 or 25 million euros for Abde, Barcelona would keep 4 to 5 million euros, or would get 4 to 5 million euros, reducing the cost of the signing of Anthony Gordon by 4 to 5 million, technically all the way up to 12 million if Newcastle pay the release clause. But there's more. There's more. And I told you, this is a domino effect. Anthony Gordon joins Barca. That means now Newcastle have to replace him. If they sign Abde to replace Anthony Gordon, that leaves Real Betis without a winger. Who is Real Betis considering replacing Abde with in case he does leave? Well, they're looking at Jean Virgili. And once again, you might ask, Mo, why do I care if Real Betis sign Jean Virgili? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona still own 40% of the rights of Jean Virgili, and it's reported that Real Betis could end up signing him for around 10 million euros, and 40% of that would be 4 million euros. So Barcelona could make approximately 10 million euros from the move of Abde to Newcastle and Jean Virgili to Real Betis, reducing the total cost of the operation of Anthony Gordon from 70 million fixed to 60 million. Obviously, there's still the variables, but those variables have to be met first before Barcelona could pay it. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, it's very important to always maintain rights in younger players when they leave, because things like that could happen in the future. You end up making money without having to do a single thing, without having to lift a single finger. Anyways, on to the next big news, and this one is a big bombshell of today. Yesterday, we had the big bombshell of Anthony Gordon joining Barcelona. And well, today we have the bombshell that Barcelona have reached an agreement with Julian Alvarez to join the club. Ladies and gentlemen, this summer transfer market is insane. It hasn't even began technically because the window doesn't open until July 1st, but we're already having headlines left and right. And well, today's headline was that Julian Alvarez has reached an agreement with Barcelona on the personal terms. Because if you don't know by now, when you want to sign a player, you have to reach an agreement with both the player and the club where they play, right? The club where they play have to agree to sell him, the player, and the player himself has to agree to come to your club. Remember, these players are not chattel. They're not slaves. They have to agree to come to your club. You have to reach personal agreement with them, the length of the contract, how much salary you're going to pay them, any bonuses, things like that. And all of that has been agreed with the Argentine after a 4-hour meeting between Deco, Julian Alvarez's agent, Fernando Hidalgo, and then Juanma Lopez. Now, if you're wondering who is Juanma Lopez is a sports agent. He represents the likes of Dani Olmo and the best goalkeeper in La Liga, Joan Garcia. And you might wonder, why is he there? Well, Juanma Lopez was there because currently there's no relationship between the two sporting directors at Barcelona and Atletico Madrid, which is Deco and Mateo Alemany, respectively. The two of them are not on speaking terms. So they brought in Juanma Lopez to act as an intermediary because Juanma Lopez has a very good relationship with Barca, but he also has a very good relationship with Atletico Madrid. In fact, Juanma Lopez represented Morata back in the day when Morata was at Atletico de Madrid. So Juanma Lopez is going to act as that intermediary between Barca and Atletico. He's going to be going, hey, Barca, what do you got to offer? Hey, Atletico Madrid, this is what Barca offered. What's your counter offer, right? Juanma Lopez is going to be that intermediary between both clubs. So all of these people, Deco, Juanma Lopez, and Julian's agent, Fernando Hidalgo, met for 4 hours. And after that meeting, well, the agreement was reached for Julian to join Barca. All the personal terms were agreed to. And this is big because this was the first time that Barcelona had sat down directly in the same room with Julian's agent. Before, it was all talks over the phone or talks through intermediaries. This was the first time that Fernando Hidalgo was seated in the same room as Deco and, of course, as Juanma Lopez. And, well, that's because the intention was clear. Julian Alvarez wants to come to Barcelona, and as such, he sent his agent to this meeting. The meeting took 4 hours, and during that meeting, the agreement was reached. But there's more. There is more, because Not only has Julian told Barca, yes, I want to come to your club and has reached an agreement, but it's reported now that Julian has informed Atletico de Madrid of his intention not only to leave their club, but that his priority is to come to Barcelona. And this is huge. Why is this huge? Because this now forces Atletico Madrid to come to the table. You guys might recall me say, because we've been talking about Julian for quite some time. I told you in previous videos that Barcelona were not going to make an offer for Julian until Julian actually says, I want to go to Barca, until he actually takes that first step. Because they knew that Atletico Madrid had no incentive to negotiate with anyone, let alone with us, because Julian is their flagship signing. They just signed him last summer. The whole point of signing him is to keep him for many years and so they can compete at the highest level. So they had no incentive to negotiate. There was no reason for Atletico Madrid to negotiate. And the only way, and Barca knew the only way Atletico would actually negotiate is if Julian tells them, hey, go negotiate with Barca. I want to leave. And well, now Julian has done that. And the second reason why Barcelona wanted Julian to take the first step was, of course, they didn't want a repeat of Nico Williams where, oh, yeah, he kind of wants to come. Okay, you start negotiating. Next thing you know, the guy renews. And, well, all of your efforts were for nothing. So Barcelona, from day one, they made it very clear. Julian, we want you. We're willing to work hard on this signing, but you have to take the first step. And now Julian has taken the first step. Not only has he reached an agreement with the club, but he has personally told Atletico Madrid, I want to leave, and my priority is to join Barcelona, and this is huge. This is huge, huge, huge. Now, just like I said yesterday, with every day we're getting closer and closer, but we're not there yet. There's still work to do, and that work is how much will Atletico Madrid want. For now, they're insisting they want 150 million euros. Barcelona are preparing their first offer, and it's reported that the first offer could be around 90 million plus 10 million in bonuses, with the intention or the hope that both clubs can meet somewhere in the middle around 120 million euros for this signing. So, big step forward. Julian initially told Atletico Madrid, I have doubts about the project. Then he told them, I don't want to renew. Now, not only do I don't want to renew and I have doubts about this project, but I want to leave. And my priority is Barcelona. This is absolutely huge because this will now force Atletico to negotiate with Barca through Juanma Lopez, of course, with Barca now preparing the first offer, which is expected to be around 90 million euros. Now, PSG are still pressuring. They're willing to pay the full 150 million euros to take Julian. But of course, Julian has made it clear his priority is Barcelona. And again, this is very, very important because that forces Atletico to negotiate with us. Now, Barcelona are hoping to wrap up this operation before the World Cup, just like with Anthony Gordon. They wanted to wrap it up before the World Cup to risk, to avoid the risk of the player having a wonderful World Cup and then their price freaking explodes. But this one's not going to be as easy as the Anthony Gordon signing, right? Might take some time. I don't know if Barcelona will be able to wrap up before the World Cup. We'll see. But here is my opinion on this. I think time is in our favor. I think as time goes by, it's Atletico who will get more desperate because now they have on their hands a player that doesn't want to stay there, a player that's made it clear he wants to come to Barca. Barcelona have already made their first big signing, Anthony Gordon, so they're not in a rush. If Julian doesn't come, that's okay. We're covered. Obviously, it's much better if he does. I'm not saying that it's not important for him to come. It would be. But I think right now Barcelona are in a very good stance. And I hope that Barcelona acts that way and don't get desperate because there's no reason for us to get desperate. The player has reached an agreement with us. He's told Atletico he wants to leave and come to Barca. Atletico Madrid now have a player on their hand who doesn't want to be there. They need to get rid of him quick so they can start planning their summer transfer market. So now the ball is in their court. And I think Barcelona should act accordingly and let them freak out. Let them get nervous, not the other way around. Now, let's end today's video because there's more news. I'm telling you, this summer transfer market is it's crazy. It's crazy, but there's more news because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona now seriously considering and closely tracking Andrea Cambiaso. Now, before we talk about Andrea Cambiaso, just a quick reminder that it's still Barcelona's main priority to sign Joao Cancelo, who, of course, is here Barcelona on loan until June 30th. Then he is set to go back to Al Hilal. Barcelona want to sign Joao Cancelo on a 2-season loan. Hansi Flick is counting on him. Barcelona very happy with his performance. But, of course, the problem is that Al Hilal want around 15 million euros, which Barcelona are not looking to pay. Barcelona would rather either sign Cancelo on a free transfer or pay something less than what Al Hilal are asking for, maybe at 5 million, something, you know, more symbolic rather than the 15 million that Al Hilal are asking for. So the priority is still Cancelo. That's Barcelona's priority. That's what they want to accomplish. And I think it will happen. Cancelo has already said he doesn't want to go to Al Hilal, and I don't see Al Hilal forcing Cancelo, who doesn't want to be there, to remain there. And I think it's going to happen. But if it doesn't happen, if Al Hilal insist, and Barca eventually give up and say, okay, screw you, we don't want to pay that, the option B, which Barcelona are seriously considering, is Andrea Cambiaso. Now, of course, we talked about Andrea Cambiaso in the past. Deco is a big fan. He's been watching him for quite some time. 26 years old, versatile fullback. He mainly plays as a left back, but he can also play on the right, which would be the perfect solution for Barcelona because they think both fullbacks need to be reinforced, but obviously there's not enough money to sign 2 fullbacks, a right back and a left back. So they prefer to reinforce with someone who can play on both sides, right? And well, enter Andrea Cambiaso, also enter Joao Cancelo, right? That's why Joao Cancelo is the priority. Andrea Cambiaso is more of option B in case that Cancelo deal does not happen. Now, Andrea Cambiaso does have a contract with Juventus until 2029, and it's reported that Barcelona believe that around 30 to 40 million euros, this could become Barcelona's official signing. Now, of course, to me, I would rather sign Cambiaso, 26 years old, in his prime. He could come to Barcelona for a much longer time than someone like Cancelo. But, of course, we're talking about 40 million, and Barcelona just spent heavy on Anthony Gordon, and their plan is spend heavy on Julian Alvarez. So that's not going to leave much money for someone like Cambiaso. This is why Cancelo is a priority. I imagine if things were differently, where Barcelona were in a better financial state, maybe Cambiaso would be the priority. Maybe. I don't know. But for now, that's the priority. It's Cancelo. Option B is Cambiaso. We'll see what happens. But my God, what a summer transfer market we're having. Who would have thought? Anyways, that's all. Let me know, you guys, what you think about all the news I shared with you. Anthony Gordon passing his medical exams, officially a Barca player. How Barcelona could reduce the impact of that signing through the movements of Abde and Virgili. And of course, tell me about Julián. What do you think about Barcelona reaching an agreement with him? And what do you think about Cambiaso being an option for the club? Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, and as always, peace, guys.